When you give your mind a directive, it goes and finds evidence for that. So if you say you're tired, you're old, you're fat, your mind will constantly find evidence to support that.
I'll have what she's having.
Welcome to another edition of
She talks with confidence.
Podcast.
Welcome back. This is the She Talks with Confidence podcast. This is Tony, your host, and another amazing guest. And I can't wait to dive into this because it has a lot to do with the mind-body connection and how your appearance as a woman, when you go through the changes, could impact you psychologically and how to keep that from happening. I would like to introduce Michelle Doan. Michelle, how are you?
I am doing fantastic. Thank you so much for having me here.
She is the owner of Emani Vegan Cosmetics. I want to start off by saying you've built a massively successful beauty brand, but you said that true confidence has to be practical and not performative. And I love the fact that you stated that because the performative thing gets in the way a lot. For a woman whose skin or body is changing due to stress or aging or menopause or all of the above, why is it such a terrible thing to anchor your identity in your looks in that situation?
It has a lot to do with social media, society, and everything that we see and everything that is around us. When you look at Instagram, you look at Facebook, everyone's living this perfect life, perfect body, even all the advertising and all the magazines. I grew up in the 80s and the 90s, and the way that they portray women was actually unrealistic. And I think it's really important to understand that what we see versus reality is not real because they only show the highlights moments. They don't show the moments that we have no makeup on, we're sweating,
Mhm.
and like real life. And so I think that plays a big role on how we feel about ourselves.
I think it's so important to recognize the fact that this isn't something that's just come up with Gen Z or millennials or Gen Alpha. We, being the same generation, we dealt with this as well in terms of the unrealistic beauty bar that has been set.
Yeah.
Do you think it's a systemic thing that women are valued or they value themselves too much on their looks, on their attractiveness, on their youth and beauty? And then when they get older, does that come from more from inside themselves or does that come more from society in terms of how they value themselves as they get older and they change?
I think as humans, we have a desire to be heard, seen, and loved and understood. And I think that is wired deep within us. And I think that's what we seek for because those are our basic human needs. And for us to be accepted, it's really important. And we are in a society that people are really quick to judge. And therefore, this is so important to have that inner strength and accepting and loving ourselves was a huge thing. And it took me a long time even to understood this. And when I hear self-love a few years ago, I would roll my eyes. I'm like, oh, here we go talking about
Yeah.
self-love.
Yeah.
But I didn't even know what that really means. Self-love is
Mhm.
not taking yourself to a spa day.
Mhm.
Self-love is understanding and curating the thoughts that you have and the conversations that you have about yourself.
You hit the nail on the head. It's about you understanding your intrinsic worth and your intrinsic beauty and not looking for exterior reinforcement from anybody or anything. That's the entire point. The thing that works for me and that I've talked to my clients about over the years is you want to present yourself, not to perform. It's not about performing and it's not about selling yourself. It's just about presenting who you are. And in order to do that authentically, you have to ground yourself and be totally cool with who you are through the
Yeah.
body changes. And for a lot of women who have identified more so with their attractiveness over the years, and it's almost defaulted into that's their superpower. And then they
Yeah.
get to be older and things do start to change like they do in everybody. It hits them way worse because their almost entire identity has been in just their physical attractiveness. When you see something like that, what is the first thing that comes to mind in terms of trying to help them make a shift in that to understand it's not about that?
What you said was really important is how we identify ourselves and define our worth. And so
Mhm.
for me, it's all about how I feel. And I didn't get to this place without any work. I've done a lot of inner work. And one of the things that it was very difficult for me in the beginning was that I didn't like how I feel. I didn't like the conversations that I were having in my head. Now, first of all, I wasn't even aware that I was having such negative conversations about myself. So, anyone who is listening to
Mhm.
this podcast, I would just say spend one day listening to your thoughts and what are you thinking? Because your thoughts really drives the emotions. And as women, we worry. We worry about everything that we have no control over. And when someone was telling me worry is the most useless emotion, it made sense, but I didn't know how to disengage. So every time I worry about something that I had no control over, I basically said, look, it's a useless emotions. Let's replace it with something else that's going to make you feel better. And it starts very small and it's a practice.
It is. It's a pattern recognition. It's the understanding that they call in psychology, it's automatic negative thinking loops. It's something that your ego creates those things over the years to protect you, to
Yeah.
keep you smaller and protected and beneath or in within the shell. And it doesn't serve you if you want to grow or if you want to expand or if you want to connect,
Yeah.
especially with people. And it doesn't serve you, especially as you get older, because things start to change. And I know, again, we're the same generation. And boy, at 61, I don't think the same even at 50 or 45. Things
Yeah.
change and they shift, and there's a deeper understanding. And anybody has the ability to see those patterns and to recognize them, and in recognizing the patterns, the important thing is to understand that there's a lot of them. They're automatic. The key at the very beginning is, like you said, make it a small move. Just recognize them. If you just do that, it's the first step in starting to not want to accept it, not want to live your life on that script. Instead, write your own that's going to benefit you, especially when it comes to your image, your self image, and how you feel about yourself. Now, you came from a very challenging background. You were a Vietnamese immigrant. You grew up in a refugee camp. When you look back on that young girl and all the things you had to do to survive, how did that shape you and how does it shape you now in terms of this inner strength that you're talking about?
My mother was a really great model for me. She left Vietnam, escaped on a boat with 6 children from the age of
Wow.
2 to 15. My oldest brother was 15. And we lived in refugee camp for about a year. And then we apply for asylum. We end up in Canada. So most of my
Mm.
family lives in Ontario. And at one point, came to California. But during those informative years, I know what it's like to be hungry. I know what it's like to have nothing. I know what it's like to come to a strange country and not speak the language. And it's a complete culture shock. And I could sit there and say, oh, wow, woe is me. But those experiences made me so much more resilient, makes me more adaptable into everything that I'm doing. And I think that is really critical because now I look at every obstacle in my life as an opportunity for me to grow and to learn. Yeah, it's damn uncomfortable. It's so uncomfortable, and sometimes you want to give up, but I always think, what is it for me to learn? And this is going to sharpen who I am as a person, emotionally, physically, mentally, and spiritually.
I've never met a successful woman in my entire life that did not have the mindset of obstacles or opportunities. Never. You have to have that mindset in wanting to expand. You have to have the mindset of wanting to be uncomfortable in terms of Instagram or TikTok or anything nowadays. And it may be because it's my feed and what I'm looking for, because I'm a big quantum guy. So I talk about quantum shifting and leaps and all that fun stuff.
Mhm.
And it's about the thing that you're trying to resist the most is the thing that's going to get you the farthest if you face
Yeah.
up to it. And some women, when they're challenged that way and they get to that level, they don't have it at that point. And maybe it takes them a little while to get to the point. You learned resilience from a very young age and you were able to apply that as you went in. Then you had, in growing up, you had cystic acne issues, talking about appearance. And then you also talk about how you navigated menopause in dealing with those things and you having your beauty brand. What would you say was the internal shift that you made with those issues that helped you to ground yourself and increase or continue your level of confidence to start and grow your business?
Tony, I wish there was an easy answer, but I think grounding myself only came with age. When I was 15, 16 is when I started really breaking out, and I broke out for a really long time. Anyone who is not familiar with cystic acne is that it's deeply inflamed, and I spent a lot of
Mhm,
time at the dermatologist. My
mhm.
cystic acne was so bad that sometimes the dermatologists have to numb my face and basically do extraction with a needle. And yeah, and getting a cystic acne facial was not a pleasant one because once again, she would use a lancet and she would break the
Ooh,
skin and she would drain. And I would be wearing Neosporin on my face for days. And I was super frustrated because I took Accutane that really messed up my system. So right
yeah.
now, I'm really all about probiotics and understand how gut health really is important, but I'm
Mhm.
56 and I did not learn these lessons 30 years ago, 40 years ago. And so from that aspect, I wasn't grounded. I was frustrated. I was really pissed and I couldn't find anything that worked for my skin and I felt hopeless. And then I met someone that kind of shined a light, which is the esthetician that was giving me these facials and taught me about ingredients that clog my pores. Now, this
Mhm.
is 1997. And back then, we didn't have the internet and information at the palm of our hands like we do today. And with that, I was like, okay, great. Now I have a list of ingredients that I can't wear because I have super sensitive skin and anything I put on my skin, I broke out. So I started calling companies. And that's the reason why Imani was started. It's not because the world needs another beauty brand. I made this company, I created this company for every woman who ever looked in the mirror, felt frustrated, and felt defeated because her skin is jacked up. And I thought that would end it like when I was in my 30s. Then I broke out again
Mm.
through my pregnancy because our hormones basically drive everything about our health, even our emotional health. And then I went that through that, it's fine, and then perimenopause hit. Then I'm starting having hot flashes. Then talking to my doctors was also another challenge because they didn't understand. It's like, "Oh, there's nothing wrong with you." And I said, "Can you issue me a hormone check?" And I was having arguments with that doctor. I fired that doctor and find someone else. I went through 3 different doctors before one could say, "Okay, let's do our hormone check." So you have to be an advocate of what you need. And then when you're going through menopause is when you start to feel not only you're tired, I was going through depression, I couldn't sleep, and then I
Mhm.
was gaining weight around my belly and my skin
Mhm.
starting to droop. And I'm like, wow, this is pretty bad. And everything that you read on the internet
It does,
feeds
yeah.
into that.
I think that just goes to show the fact that there's stuff comes up all the time. It's not like you learn something or you find the right medicine and then you're cool and everything's great. And then no, because then
Yeah.
10 years later, you gotta deal with some other crap that comes up and then something
Yeah.
else. And the point is, face it head on and deal with it. When the menopause hit and things were starting to melt and droop and whatnot, and being initially being pissed, I would assume, because believe me,
Yeah.
I'm going through the thing now where And I try to eat as well as I can and get 8 hours of sleep. And I'm going to the gym 5 days a week. And I get up and all my joints, it's like a band. It's like a one-man band as I'm walking to the kitchen, right? Okay. I'm like, what else can I do? You really can't, right? But
No.
how did you deal with it initially? Did you change the company based upon what you were going through during menopause? Did you shift your approach? Did you develop new products for your time that you were dealing with?
Yeah, absolutely. I was being super selfish because I couldn't find anything that I thought made sense and worked for my skin. When I started Imani, I was just looking for a makeup foundation that did not break me out. It was really simple. We started out with one product that is like a powder foundation. And we went for a really long time. We were very successful. We are in 17 different countries, and at one point, we had 50 Macy's counter, but we launched in 2000, late 2007,
Mhm.
and the economy wasn't working well for us in 2008. And doing with big programs is there's a lot of risk for small brands. And as I age, I noticed my skin was changing. And then I love using natural products. I use skincare because I want to see visible changes. I
Mhm.
want to do something that makes my skin look better, texture, tone, and less fine lines. And then it was a big challenge, and that was another obstacle we had to go through. And about 10 years ago, I went to Korea because K-beauty was just coming out into the US market. I went to Korea and talked to all the top labs, and I'm like, "Tell me about Korean beauty. How do you guys do it different than Americans?" And first of all, the language barrier was real. Second of all, they don't really wanna tell you anything.
Of course not. Yeah.
And
Yeah.
and then I didn't understand all the ingredients, and I didn't want that as a naturalist. I'm like,
Mhm.
there is no way that my skin can take all of this ingredients that I don't understand that I'm putting in my
Mhm.
body. But I found a company that owns technology. They own 13 different patents to break molecules, natural molecules down to smaller molecules. So
Hmm.
something like 200 parts per million, they can break it down to 2,000 parts per million. What does
Hmm.
that mean for like a regular person? It's very bioavailable. It absorbs
Mhm.
into your skin very fast.
Mhm.
So ginseng and pre and post probiotics, it's going to do wonder for your skin. So I don't believe in 10 steps either. And I want to create something that's very simplified. So we think about how can we create three products that it's going to lift and do skin for like myself, like over 35, 45, 55, and 65. And that's our target. And that's how we create products is based upon what I needed. And I'm like, I can't be alone in this.
That brings up a very good point, and I'm this is a very selfish question because I have a granddaughter and she's 12 and she's not allowed to be on certain platforms, but she's on some of them and she sees it's the routines now. It's the little girls who are doing the 5-step, 6-step, 7-step routines. And I'm wondering if you could expand on just a little bit in terms of when to start the cosmetics and the most important thing because there's so many options out there. I go to Sephora just to pick up some cleanser or some chapstick or something. And there are thousands and thousands of products there. And she's saying, "Oh, this is for this. This is for." I go, "What's the difference between these two things?" She goes, "I don't know, but everybody buys them." Can you go through how if that's a good or bad thing for 12-year-olds or 15-year-olds to start this whole process? And then in the 20s and 30s, what is the best approach to take to keep your skin healthy so when you are 40 and 50 and going through menopause that you're on the right side of things?
Yeah. One of the trends right now, some of them are starting as young as 8
Ah, it's
to do
crazy.
skincare because that's what they really see. And a girlfriend of mine has a daughter, and her name is Lila, and she's 11. And she's like, "Oh my God, Lila loves Imani." And I'm like, I'm really glad to hear that, but because Imani has a lot of ingredients that are anti-aging. So
Mhm.
when you're 8, and then when 8 to 13, like that tween period, your hormones are changing as well. And also, I think it's really important not to put all those chemicals on. So I'm really big on natural sunscreen, physical sunscreen, instead of like chemical based sunscreen, especially if whether it's a girl or a boy, they're playing
Mhm.
sports. You don't want to be
Mhm.
putting all of those chemicals on their skin. And especially when you're sweating, all the pores are open and then it's absorbed into your system. So
Yeah.
I think at those age is really important to what you're putting on. Matter of fact, her and I, we're going to be looking to launch a really simple with really super clean ingredients for that younger demographic because most of the products that you see on the shelf right now are not made for young, tender skin that is growing and that's going to be entering into puberty. So every age group is different. So the best thing is that understanding what you're buying for your kids and teach them about the ingredients. It's like if you don't know what's in here, you should not be putting it onto your body. If you don't know what you're consuming, then don't put it in your body. If you don't understand the ingredients, I think we need to teach our children very young if you
Mhm.
can read the label.
And so is it necessary for to do a cleanser and a toner and see, I don't even know all the stuff, or just wash with some gentle soap and water and apply a good quality
Yeah.
lotion or something?
Yeah. Yeah. I love it because you called it a lotion.
Yeah. Say
So
that's
so
just somebody who knows zero. I'm old school. I'm from the '70s. All we had
yeah,
was Jergens lotion, and it's all that I use Lubriderm
and then
every
you
day.
do
That's all.
face
It's the only thing I know,
bleach.
right? Yeah, exactly. I don't know all this
So I love it.
hydrating, hydrochloric,
Yeah,
that stuff. How about in terms of 20s and 30s? What's the best thing? And every woman's skin is different. I know that.
yeah,
What's how can they 20s and 30s? How can they do the right thing and make the right decision instead of doing all this stuff? Or maybe that is the right decision. So that when they are in their 40s and 50s and 60s, they're not playing catch up at all, or they're not in a position where it's irreparable or you can't keep it up.
yeah. Okay, so 3 simple things, no matter what life cycle you are in. First of all is self-care. You need sleep, you need hydration, and alcohol does really age you. So lifestyle really matters, and you don't need 10 steps. For me, either you're 8 or 80, you need a good cleanser because when you're out, whether you're active or not, you're going to get all these things sitting on your face. Sometimes they're oils. You walk outside, there's dirt, pollution, and things like that. So, having a really good cleanser that cleanses without stripping is really important. A toner is an extra step. A toner with a little wipe, what that does is that for people with acne, helps to give their skin an extra cleanse with a cotton pad, but it's not
Mm,
always necessary because you can always splash it on. And usually it helps to balance your pH. The difference between a serum and a moisturizer is that a serum, usually it's a little bit more viscous, it's very liquidy, and it has a higher concentration of whatever active that you're looking for. So understanding what you're paying for, more money doesn't always meaning it's gonna be a better serum. You have to understand what's the percentages of those active in the serum and how is it gonna work for your skin. Like right now, vitamin C is really huge, but high percentages of vitamin C is gonna cause your skin to irritate. So there's
mm,
a balance in that. And a
mhm.
moisturizer is you wanna look for something that is non-comedogenic, that's sensitive skin, that doesn't have any silicone, that doesn't have any parabens, because those are the ingredients that should not be going into your skin and living in your body. So no matter what age you are, it should just be a cleanser. If you really want to take a little extra, then you wanna do a toner. A serum is gonna deliver more nutrients, and a moisturizer is gonna lock it in. And then for me is that my skin became really dry with menopause. And so I need that extra hydration, especially around the eyes area and my mouth and my nose gets really dry. And something a little bit thicker, we create something called Hello Bright Eyes. It's really designed for eyes and also my neck because I
Mhm.
notice more wrinkles on my necks as well. So not just for my eyes, I use it for my entire face before I go to bed. And then I put serum on the back of my hands because that's where we aged. So I have a whole face, neck, and hand application before bed.
I love it. That's funny because Even guys, because we do that too.
Yeah.
I do the lotion because again, I'm a lotion guy, right? So I do
Yeah.
lotion on the hands, on the back of the because that's the first thing you can always tell somebody's age by looking at their hands if they don't take care of them. You can always tell that. So I
Yeah.
love that. That's such great advice in terms of keeping it simple and doing something that's creating levels of healthy skin because I think so much stuff out there is developed just so they can develop something to say that you need it, but you really don't. And overall, it's going to be more harm than good, especially maybe in
Yeah.
combination with other stuff. And again, the preteen stuff, it's a little scary to me. And my granddaughter's been doing very well with that because my daughter actually went to a dermatologist and said, listen, she's going through all this. She wants all these things. And she's like, "No, you don't need all
Yeah.
that kind of stuff." So to wind things up, I always do a call to action. And with
Yeah.
your experience and your background, I'd like to ask you, and I wrote this down so I don't mess it up. So if a woman is watching this right now, looking in the mirror and feeling completely disconnected from the face or body looking back at her, what is the very first reality check or audit she needs to give her mindset today to reclaim that power or to ground herself in confidence?
I think it's not so much as a mirror, but I call my mind controls everything. My mind controls how I feel, how my day, how my life, how my week, how my year, and how I show up. And so I call it the little Zen garden between my ears. I do what they call mirror work. And it's very hard in the beginning because I would look at myself in the mirror, looking into my eyes, and it's like, you know what? You're okay. So in the morning, I just, you're okay. You know what? And then my mind would say, hey, oh God, like I woke up and I'm like so tired or I'm achy or all of that. And I say, but you're okay. You're going to have a good day today. And so you have to be your own coach. And it's not fake optimism, but when you give your mind a directive, it goes and finds evidence for that. So if you say you're tired, you're old, you're fat, your mind will constantly find evidence to support that. But if you just start with, hey, I'm okay, you know what? And today's going to be a good day. And I'm going to find these little things that's going to make me happy. And I started with that. And it's a practice that you have to do every day. It's not easy. And so I started to do a gratitude practice. And Tony, I can tell you, I was so unimaginative. I'm like, list three things I'm grateful for: my health, my body, my business. The next
Mhm.
day, my kids, my family, my health. Like I was so
Right.
unimaginative. So I go on YouTube University. I call it YouTube University because
Mhm.
people criticize of what the feed is, but whatever you look for is what it's going to feed you. So I found something called 21-day gratitude meditation.
Mhm.
And it starts with, oh, thank you for my bed. I'm like, oh my
Uh-huh.
gosh, I love my bed.
Yeah, you don't
Thank
think
you
about
for
it, but yeah,
coffee.
yeah. Oh, I
And
oh,
I'm like,
I
so
that's a big thing, yeah. I'm 100% behind that. Yeah.
yeah, and so what I did was that I turned the everyday thing that we do become extraordinary experiences. And that's how I start. Because you're not going to get a whole shift of perspective in one day. And so just look for the good things in your day. And when your mind saying all these negative things and how bad you feel, just like, it's just a thought. And I just watch that thought leave my head. I'm like, we're going to go find something good and fun about ourselves. And it takes
You have
practice.
yeah. You have just described quantum shifting and manifestation. That's exactly what it is. Because in a nutshell, all realities exist, and you can be on the reality of I don't look good and nothing ever happens to me.
Mhm.
You can choose that reality, but you can also choose the reality of I'm going to make things work today. I'm going to face my obstacles. I'm going to impact somebody positively today. I'm
Yeah.
going to keep an eye out for opportunities. You could make the choices, either one or anything in between. All of those realities exist in the same thing, and you can choose if you want to quantum leap into the one that is going to benefit you the most and society in general. So that's what that is. It's a quantum shift and
Yeah.
manifestation. I love that.
It took me a long time to get here. And I want to add something else. When I was younger, when I was raising my kids and doing my company, trying to run a company and being a single mom,
Mm.
And right now, I turn everything that is, "Oh, I have to do this," and I change it to, "I get to do this." If you have young children and you're listening to this and you're just like, "Oh, I have to pick up the kids from school." No, you get to pick up your kids from
Mhm.
school because it's a privilege and an honor. I have to go to the gym. No, you get to go to the gym because you can afford a gym membership and you have arms and legs and healthy enough to go to the gym. And so every time I feel it's like I have to, I'm like, "Oh, no, I get to do it."
Mm.
And that changed my life.
Just that one shift, just that one simple change in the word can make a huge difference, and that's as easy it is, and then believe the fact that you that I love that, Michelle. What a mic drop at the end, I just love that. Michelle Doan, thank you so much for being here, and can you let everybody know what your website is, where your products
Yeah.
can be purchased, and then if somebody has any questions or comments, if they can get a hold of you somewhere?
Emani.com, it's spelled Emani.com. We're sold on our website. Also, we're available on Amazon. So I love Amazon Prime. And then we're also available in some of your natural foods health stores because I think it's really important to provide those things. So you can find if Imani is available in a health food near you. But Imani.com is the best way. And you can reach us on our social media, Instagram and Facebook at Imani Cosmetics.
Love it. Thank you, Michelle. I really appreciate it. And for me, it's theconfidencedoc.com or Tony at theconfidencedoc. And if you have any comments or questions, you want to, even if you're a woman out there and you're like, wow, this totally resonates with me, or man, I have something to contribute, I would love to hear from you. You want to come on and chat about stuff? That's why I do this, to create a platform for strong, powerful, influential women like Michelle to come up and do things like this. So if you want to, let me know. If you need some help or you want to coach, give me a holler. Let me know. Hope things are well, and I will see you next week. Thanks.